Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are watching this out there on the World Wide Web. This is Jeremy Geelan for SYS-CON TV here at 11th Cloud Expo. Cloud Expo, Silicon Valley. Delighted to have Jerry Miller with us from CDNetworks. CDNetworks, I'm saying CDN, but that's not the case at all. Jerry, CDNetworks has had a busy time. What have you been doing?
So we actually have had a very busy time, Jeremy, not only with respect to a lot of our new kind of services and a lot of new industries we've been targeting and that have been approaching us, but also trying to get our message out a little bit more, have more of a trade show presence and more of a marketing presence. So a lot of it's been about just having more of a expanding the perception of the company and the knowledge about our services that we've been having for quite some time.
Well, one way, of course, of spreading the word about services is through great branding, and I think you've been doing some pretty good branding around acceleration. So why don't you tell us about the CDN version of Cloud Acceleration?
Absolutely. So Cloud Acceleration is really an attempt to capture the fact that as people move to the cloud and start virtualizing their data centers, that they need solutions that aren't hardware-based. And CDNetworks offers a full suite of products and services that enable cloud-based solutions to be able to reach their end users effectively regardless of where they are on the globe. So CDNetworks Global Cloud Acceleration is really trying to show that once you go to the cloud, you still can have you can still accelerate your services, still have great user experience around the world, even with going to the cloud.
And the global part of that, Jeremy, and I'm not going to call you out on it, but you know, that's ambitious. Come on, there are huge companies trying to do this. So what makes it special that CDN can put together a global offering? So
we made a strategic decision a few years ago to focus on emerging markets. In addition to having a very well-established, developed space, so in terms of US and Europe, what we've done is specifically target countries such as China, Russia, areas such as the Middle East, South America, Southeast Asia, and really put a strong focus on them in particular. So we're the only global CDN that actually has our own hardware, our own data centers, our own NOC in China. We have the largest CDN presence in Russia, as well as extensive networks in, as I said, the other emerging markets. So when we talk about the globe, we're not just talking about US and Europe, we're talking about the entire globe, and that makes us unique.
And probably American companies, when they're saying global, don't actually mean it anyway.
They're really talking about US, Europe, and some other things. We truly mean the entire planet.
So let's imagine I take you up on your offer and I say, we're going to go with CDN. Obviously, one of the questions is going to be, are you just going to leave me high and dry? Are you really going to support my needs? And, do you have the bandwidth to do that? The operational bandwidth to do that. Am I going to be supported?
Absolutely. We at CDNetworks realize that as a services company, our success depends on our customers' success. So we want them to be successful too. We're one of the only CDNs that has a 24/7 Tier 1 and Tier 2 support network based in the United States, and 70% of all customer issues are resolved at the Tier 1 level. So we really go the extra mile to ensure that the first person people talk to is not only competent, but technical as well.
Now, more branding, you have a web performance suite. Has it got a clever name, or is it just called the Web Performance Suite?
It's really trying to encompass the suite of services that we offer that solve a variety of different needs, whether it's from standard caching or media acceleration to the more sophisticated cloud load balancer and dynamic web, as well as internet application acceleration. So what Web Performance Suite is really intended to do is encompass kind of all of those different services that satisfy all of those different types of needs. So people come to us with problems, and we basically pick and choose between the offerings that we have to solve the problem. We're more of a services approach than just sort of selling features or selling products.
Right, it's nice stuff. And then CDN, there are other web performance suites. So again, we're back to how do we differentiate, and why should you be CDNetworks? Why use you? What do you say to people?
So the two most obvious differentiators we have with other competitors, other CDN competitors, really boil down to these two things. One is the focus on emerging and the developing areas of the world. We have a very strong focus on those. We have leading performance in all of those based on real user measurement as well as other third-party monitoring services. In addition to having top tier performance in the developed countries. So we don't ignore those either. So our reach is really one of our differentiators. The second one is our ability to accelerate all types of dynamic content. And by dynamic, I'm talking about the Web 2 and 3.0 interactive, transactional type of applications that people typically had to build other virtual data centers or build new points of presence throughout the globe to be able to serve those end users. So that allows us to give a true, consistent, high-performing experience for users, for transactional, again, whether it's highly personalized type of content on a website or whether it's a transactional system like an ERP package. It allows end users to have a nice, consistent, high-performing experience regardless of where they are throughout the globe, even in the emerging markets.
Why don't we share, Jerry, with viewers, just give them a typical example, a use case, a customer who's really flourishing because of CDNetworks.
So one of our more interesting cases is we have a company called Saxa Bank, which is a foreign exchange company.
Know it well, a Danish company.
That's right. As you can imagine, very sensitive, very low latency application where they were having some difficulty getting trades through from China. And as a result of that, the users were unhappy, they were having difficulty with one of their solutions, so they called us in specifically to solve that problem. So not only are users able to get the transactions through, but the experience is much better, and they were able to, as a result of that, get some very good traction in that marketplace. And as you can imagine, the China marketplace is a very lucrative one, particularly in the foreign sea.
They do not want any latency to interfere with their ambitions.
Absolutely not.
And what about if I now have heard this and I've realized, my God, these guys really are standing up clouds in all the places I need them. They can plug me in. How do we follow up? How can we get a hold of you and the team and CDNetworks expertise? Where shall we go? To the web?
Sure. Certainly the web is one location. We, of course, have a booth here at Cloud Expo and at some other trade shows, which we'll continue to announce. But our website, www.cdnetworks.com. Certainly there is not only some webinars on China and Russia specifically that we've recently done, but there's a number of other collateral that people can get access to see kind of what our services are and some of the customers that we've been able to make very happy.
And you get a session here too, yes?
Exactly. So the session, which is also available on the webinar, on a webinar that can be accessed afterwards, it was specifically around China and the actual technical complications around getting into the China market from more of an implementation side, less from a business side. I think everyone knows there's a lot of users there, but it's more along what are the hurdles that you're going to have to overcome in order to be able to reach that market.
Fantastic. So there you are. If that's your area, emerging markets, use the emerging technology. It makes perfect sense, but why not go with someone who's got expertise? Thanks so much, Jerry Miller, CDNetworks, for talking with us here in Silicon Valley, and thank you for following along on the World Wide Web.
Thanks for your time.